Most of the time, I want to thank you for agreeing to come on. I appreciate you for taking the time to do this interview here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Harold. The pleasure is mine.
No problem at all. And if you don't mind, just give a little background about yourself and how you and what inspired you to come up with this campaign.
Yes, so I grew up in Kenya, and then later on in my life, I moved to the UK, where I'm living at the moment. And so it's my lived experience growing up in Kenya and my lived experience growing up in the UK that has given me a perspective that I think is different from that of most people, especially most Black people. And by this, I mean, I think I have suffered more abuse and discrimination from Black people than from white people. So when I moved to the UK and I started interacting with white people, I felt like all the things that I had grown up being told about white people, especially because of the historical injustices that have been perpetrated by white people against Black people. Um, my experience when I started interacting with white people for the first time after moving to the UK was very different because I felt like I I had a better connection with white people. I felt like they understood me better. I felt like they did not abuse and discriminate against me as much as Black people did. You know, so which was very conflicting. As a Black man being in that situation, and so since then, I've noticed, things. For example, there has been uh, some kind of an effort to introduce, you know, lessons about racism to kids in school. And some of this material is telling kids, white kids, that you know their ancestors are responsible for the challenges that Black people face in society because of because of racism and all this. And and Black kids are being told that their ancestors suffered, and their people continue to suffer today because of what white people do to Black people. So I don't believe that is true. I think there are injustices that have been perpetrated in the past by white people against Black people, but that is not responsible for the challenges that Black people face in society. For example, issues such as poverty and crime and other things that are more prevalent in Black communities than in white communities.
Okay, so basically saying you got to take responsibility for your own actions. So it's pretty much you can control yourself where you go in life, whether you prosper or not. So the point you're trying to bring about just just stop blaming the white people for your downfall, pretty much. And in your viewpoints, have you had a lot of pushback on your viewpoints on this?
I've just started putting out I've just started this campaign, so it's very early days for me. I think it's fair to say that you know, to expect pushback the more I speak about these things. But to me, I think I see the root cause of the racial divide as being in how different races bring up their children, you know, and also that is how how different races bring up their children is also responsible for the challenges that those races face in society. So, white people, I feel their ancestors figured out a long time ago how to bring up children in a nurturing way, you know. And for me, I think that is responsible for the progress that white people as a race make, um, their contribution to the advancement of humanity, I think, is significantly, huge compared to that of any other race, including the black race. And I think that is because of the way that they bring up their children. So there is a way that you nurture a child as it grows, and not just raise them, but nurturing them, which is something different. You don't interfere with what that child has come with to this world, So I feel like black people, the way we raise our children, we crush children's confidence in most cases. I'm not generalizing and saying every black person does this, but I believe in most cases this is what happens. We impose our will on our children and crush their confidence and don't nurture them. I feel like it's nurturing of children is not something that has been done within black communities. And I think there's a lot of abuse of children by parents and stuff, which doesn't seem like abuse, but I think compared to how white people bring up their children, if you look at what black people do to their children when they're bringing them up, well, that is responsible for the challenges that black people then face in society as adults when they grow up because of the way they've been brought up.
Speaking with Mr. Moses Ty, so what is your viewpoint on the Black Lives Matter movement? How do you what's your stance on that? On that whole
Personally, I don't support Black Lives Matter as a movement. Not to say that I condone, what triggered this movement. I do not condone police brutality, police violence against Black people. But I just don't feel like this movement addresses the root cause of the racial divide, the racial issues, because police brutality, especially when it's a white policeman brutalizing a black man, a lot of those issues, come down to the racial divide. The root causes of the racial divide, and to me, like I was saying earlier, I think I don't support Black Lives Matter because it doesn't address the root cause of the racial divide, and it's because at the end of the day, if we don't address the root causes, then it will keep happening. It will keep happening no matter what Black Lives Matter movement does. If it doesn't address the root causes, this will keep happening, and that's why personally I don't support Black Lives Matter, and I also feel in some instances it's more divisive, than bringing people together.
Yes, sir. I know somebody told me maybe like not too long ago on the Black Lives Matter website. There was how you worded it, but it was, I guess, their goals and their plans. It had nothing had actually little to nothing to do about black people. They had all kind of things they was looking to push. But like I said, I didn't see it on the site. I guess it was on the site for a little bit, and then they took it off. But from what I was told, it had very little to do with, family
Yeah,
practice. It was just something. It was just something. In other words, it had nothing to do with Black lives. They had another kind of agenda.
yeah.
I
I
think.
think it's mostly an anti-white agenda, and that's what I don't agree with. So it's not so much about supporting Black people and Black lives. It's more settling old scores with the grievances that Black people have against white people due to the historical injustices. And like I said earlier, I'm not denying that there has been historical injustices perpetrated by whites against Blacks. That is a fact. But this Black Lives Matter movement, I feel, you know, it's more focused on settling scores against white people than really addressing the root causes that are responsible for the racial divide. That eventually can help to bring people together. So they I feel like they bring more division than unity. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. I did a broadcast some time ago. Well, on the broadcast, he spoke about abortion. I'm not sure your stance on that, but when it comes down to abortion, I know the argument of blacks. Well, I know with the police brutality, a lot of blacks feel, all the police, or they have to kill. They want to wipe out the black people. They want to wipe out the black population. Nobody care about black folks and all that good stuff. And and I sit and think about, okay, what about abortion? Okay. So if I read the numbers correctly, the abortion rate is higher in the black community. So and the abortion providers, I think maybe over 60% is or white. So you think about it. You will take your black self to a abortion clinic, to get your to for an abortion to the very people that you feel is oppression, who feel or the one that's holding you down. So I don't think too many people, look at it that way. Okay, you so pro-black, you're tired of them gunning down on black men. That happens, but you're adding to your own demise. You're going to the abortion clinic. You're getting an abortion by who? Most likely the abortion provider is someone that's white. So to me, I just don't think people to see the big picture. You kind of being a hypocrite. You know,
yeah,
that's my viewpoint there.
yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's not just uh, abortion clinics. It's everything. If you look around you, if you look around the world, everything that humans use to make their lives comfortable and to enjoy their life, even the most basic things, have been created by white people. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The reason why white people are able to do that is because of the way they bring up their children. It's because of the way they nurture their children, and so they are able to express what they came here with. It doesn't get crushed when they're kids, when they're growing up. So they, as adults, they've been nurtured and they're able to express that, and it comes out in the form of all these things that humankind has created to improve people's lives. But the contribution of Black people to the advancement of humanity is negligible almost compared to that of white people. Um, and that's because of they are bringing. So, for example, the example you're giving about abortion clinics, those all that knowledge, all that uh, ability to provide those services, that has been created by white people. And I look at, for example, sports and music and arts, and I see a lot of black people complaining about white people monopolizing, those sectors. And they're right, but it's because white people created those things. They're able to create those environments where black people can come and express themselves and be very successful doing that, whether it's in music or in sports or in any other area, So when I hear black people who have been successful, for example, in music and in sports, complaining about white people dominating or controlling those sectors or those industries, I think to myself, what would have happened if these white people were not there in the first place? So, to create that space, that environment that allows black people and others and white people and everybody to come and express their gifts and talents and be very successful doing that. So, people have been successful using things that have been created by white people and then complaining about the same white people. And to me, if those white people did not create those things, then those black people who have been successful at expressing their gifts and talents using those platforms that have been created by these white people, they wouldn't have had that opportunity to do that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Speaking with special guest Moses Ty, the founder of Stop Anti-White Indoctrination Campaign. Speaking of the upbringing, do you feel maybe coming from a single parent home can be the cause of the complaints? Not having a no, I know there's a lot of single mothers out there, and for whatever reason, it could be various reasons. But do you feel not having a father figure? That's part of it too. If you don't have a solid father figure, that makes a world of difference, despite what society says. But it's independent woman nonsense. But you're talking about upbringing, so I really feel that having a good, solid, good, strong father figure, you know, help raise up his child. Well, no matter what race that's gonna, I say that's gonna be a great help, because if not, just I understand, maybe the father walked out and the mother got to raise the children on her own, but having a strong father figure makes a world of difference, despite what society says.
It does. People who grow up in single parent homes are kind of disadvantaged in a way. I think there's a great benefit to growing up in a household that has both parents in it. But this is again one of the reasons why I set up this campaign, because my experience is unique. I grew up in a household with both parents, and everything from outside looked very normal. But the way they brought us up, when I look back, I think I don't see they didn't teach me anything about life. they just abused me and my siblings. They just beat us up when we were kids. So, for example, in my mom's case, she was very, very abusive. She never said anything positive to me my entire life. Not one single thing. I can't anything. She's never said anything positive to me. So, we sat there my entire life growing up in this normal, supposedly normal family with a father and a mother, but uh, I couldn't function in society because of what they were doing to me, the abuse, Uh, so I have a slightly different viewpoint when it comes to the assumption that just because you grow up in a home with a father and a mother, that you're gonna be better off. I think I am the worst bro. I had the worst upbringing any human being can have, because it affected my life in such negative ways that I couldn't function in society, and it's part of the reason why I'm having to come out and do what I'm doing now. I'm trying to confront um, those issues, and bring them out into the open, so people, everywhere I go, people say to me, you're lucky. I hear people who've grown up in single parent homes complaining about it and saying, I wish I had my father or my mother with me. My life would have turned out so differently. And I think maybe, but my experience has not been the case. In fact, I would have done anything not to grow up in that household, with my father and my mother.
Oh, yes. And what did you do to overcome your upbringing to where you are now? What would you um I can't think of that word.
So
Yeah.
I think what helped me to survive that experience is because when I look back, I've been most of my life I've been living in a shell,
Mhm.
to protect myself from all that was happening around me. But then what that has done is it's affected me in other ways. For example, I really struggle to form relationships. You know, I at some point in my life I couldn't form relationships, at all. So um, yeah, as much as being in a shell kind of allowed me to protect myself to some extent from all that, it still took a lot away from me, you know. And so this what I'm doing now is kind of part of the healing process for me. I'm starting the recovery journey by confronting these issues and speaking openly about them, because it affects my entire life, every aspect of it.
Yes, sir. And we have a excuse me, special guest Moses. Moses died. The Stop Anti-White Indoctrination campaign. And what for the ones you may have said it already. For the ones the blacks you said that are constantly complaining about them not getting ahead because of white people or whatever. So what piece of advice would you give them to 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 change their way of thinking, to take responsibility for their own action? What piece of advice, what steps would you give them to possibly, not look at it that way and, take, to get a hold of their life and pursue their dreams?
Yeah, I think we should shift our focus to how we bring up children within Black and African communities, because that's the root cause of the challenges that we face in society. And so Yeah, that would be my advice. So if you're already grown up, there's nothing you can do about the way you were brought up. That's already gone. It's in the past. But you can do something about how future generations of Black and African children are being brought up. By educating yourself on how to nurture children, not just to raise children. You get a lot of people talking about how they're raising their children, and yeah, raising children is easy. Nurturing children is not easy. Uh, Making a child feel loved and protected, and not crush their confidence or impose your will on them. I think that's what we need to focus on more in African communities. So there's a lot of focus on kids respecting adults in Black and African communities, but uh, there's zero focus on adults respecting kids, and I think that's where the problem lies. We have no respect for kids, and so we grow up and we do the same thing to our kids that was done to us, and the cycle continues. And that's why we grow up and we can't do what white people can do, in terms of creating solutions and platforms, that people can come and use and to express their gifts and talents and become successful in doing that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Affirmative, well, are you familiar with affirmative action? Or do they have that over where you at?
Sorry, say that again.
Affirmative action. Do they have that over there in the UK? Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah, I think affirmative action is everywhere. Yes, I am
Yeah.
familiar with it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what's your viewpoint on that, like in the workplace?
It is a good thing. Affirmative action is a good thing, but it does not address the root cause of the problem. So, in my opinion, the reason why Black people uh, struggle to get jobs, for example, or white people feel they don't want to employ Black people, is because of the difference in how children are brought up in the two different races. You know, there is a kind of a resistance among white people, and in some cases it's subconscious. They're not even aware they're doing it, but they see people from other races as a threat to their way of life, to the way they do things, to the way they bring up their children, for example. Um, and so they want to protect their things from these other people from these other races, and it's almost an instinctive thing. Uh, and so, as much as affirmative action is good, in highlighting those kind of biases that white people might have without even realizing it, it doesn't address the root cause. The root cause is still, as long as uh, Black people are bringing up children the way they are, and white people are bringing up children the way they are, there will always be a racial divide, and it will always affect how white people feel about, say, employing Black people, or integrating with Black people, or being close to Black people. The only way we can do all these things to try and prevent those kind of divisions, but without addressing the root cause of the issue, which is how children are being brought up, then yeah, we're never gonna solve the problem.
Yes, indeed. So, and also too, you can sometimes children rebel. Sometimes they grow up in let's say a two-family house, two-parent household or whatever. They've been raised in the right way. Parents taught them right from wrong, and taught them from the Bible and things of that nature, and sometimes they grow up and still want to do their own thing. They sometimes they still rebel. And like I say, when it comes down to it, you're gonna have to take responsibility for your actions. Sometimes we can't always no blame our parents.
Yeah,
'Cause sometimes you got to like grow up. I think that might have been a. I think they were saying about Michael Jackson. He didn't have a. He grew up. He didn't have a childhood, so that's why he had Never Land. No, this and that. But to an extent, people have this. You just got to grow up. Some people have no rough childhoods, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're responsible. You got to get
you are.
accountable.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is a lot of people who are brought up in perfect families. Everything is being done right in terms of parenting. But other things come into play. For example, peer pressure, and people get derailed. It could be any reason. But the way I see it, if you're nurtured as a child, whether it's in a black family or in a white family or any other race, if you've been nurtured, then you have a chance or the ability to express your gifts in a way that someone who's not had a similar upbringing, um, you know, you kind of have an advantage over that other person who's not had a similar upbringing. Um, so there is no guarantee that children who've been nurtured are going to excel and in expressing their gift and and contributing to the advancement of humanity. But there is guarantee. It's a guarantee that if you've not been nurtured, that you're not going to be able to contribute to the advancement of humanity. Because the people bringing you up have interfered with what you've come here with in the process of bringing you up, without even knowing it in most cases. Um, and so, if a child has been nurtured, there is no guarantee that they will grow up to be, to contribute to human advancement. But at the same time, a child who's not been nurtured it is guaranteed that they're not going to be able to contribute, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And I tell you, they got this movement. I guess I guess in the U.S. have a lot of police brutalities and you know killing unarmed black men, and they got this strong movement to they want to defund the police. And I tell you, they all know what they're on. And I mean, a strong push. They really want to defund the police, and y'all okay, you go for it, and okay, when there's a crime committed in your home, who are you going to call? I mean, what are you going to do? So what's your stance on people want to defund the police? What would you say to them? Let them know that's not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't support that movement for defunding the police, because, again, it doesn't address the root cause of the problem. So here, the issue here is crime, within Black communities. There is a prevalence of crime in Black communities, and the police are feeling like they are reacting in a way, in an excessive way, and becoming brutal towards Black people in trying to address those crimes within Black communities. Um, so as much as I don't support police brutality, I also don't support crime, you know. So, and the way to address the issue of prevalence of crime in Black communities is through upbringing, you know. The reason there is a prevalence of crime in Black communities is because of the way Black people bring up children, you know. That's what leads to that. That's one of the challenges I was referring to earlier, about, you know, challenges in our communities that we blame white people for, you know. And this has nothing to do with white people. You know, this is all about how Black people are raising their children, leading to a prevalence of crime, and the police overreacting to that, and starting to brutalize people. So yeah, I don't support defunding the police because it doesn't address the root cause of prevalence of crime in Black communities, which is how Black people bring up children.
Yeah, so do you also feel, to me, it seemed like the excuse me, seemed like the media does a real good job of, you know, putting up this racial divide. Like I said, I don't want to see police brutality either, but, it never fails. You know what? A black man gets killed by a white police officer. That's the first thing you hear. You know, they really emphasize a white cop killing a black man. So then you're doing that, then all you're gonna do, you're playing on people's emotions. They don't want to get riled up already. Then you go see a lot of protesting. You're tearing up your own community and things of that nature. So, and you know, for example, that George Floyd. I don't know if you may be familiar with what happened some years back. You know, the police officer kneeled on his neck for several minutes and killed a man. You know, I just seen that, you know, as, I know people, you might not agree. Y'all can call me what you want to call me. I don't care. I just see that more of just more police brutality instead of just more than just a racial thing. I just see if some police officers just they need training. You know, they would to me they're just out of hand. They would just low down, dirty, just nothing but just wickedness, just evil. You know, just say you got your knee on that man's neck with all your body weight and just still pressing on it. Just add more pressure. So my opinion, I don't. It's just unfortunate. What made it more worse. It was a black man and a white officer. You know that just really blew it up. But I just seen it as just a bunch of cops that just don't have the proper training. You know, they just cut loose and no things of that nature. You know, just because it was a black man that died in the hands of a cop, that really made things explode. So I think the media really do a good job of keeping that racial divide. From what I can see.
Yeah, there is truth. There is some truth in that. You know, the role of the media in kind of uh, pouring fuel onto the fire. You know, when this kind of incidents happen. So, for example, I don't understand the focus on the N word. You know, every time someone says the N word, and you know, it's overblown in the media, and it's treated like it's such a big deal. And I'm thinking, you know, this doesn't make any sense. You know, this is a non-issue. You know, not to say that you know people should go around calling people, you know, with derogatory terms and things. But white black people call each other the N word all the time. You know, if you listen to black music,
Mhm.
uh, that word is used, and you know, constantly. You know, so when I hear black people who are using the word themselves, complaining that white people are using the word. I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me, you know. I think that's we shouldn't be focusing on such trivial issues, you know, and blackface and this kind of thing. I think those are very, very trivial issues. I see them taking too much space in the media, you know, people focusing on those stories, and I'm thinking this is not what we should be focusing on. You know, there are other more important issues that we should be focusing on in terms of addressing the racial divide. You know, and to me, it's the issue around how different races bring up children. That is the root cause. That's what I see as the root cause of the racial divide. Things like the N word and blackface and all these other things, I think they're just, yeah, we shouldn't even be talking about those kind of things.
Yes, indeed, and it's yeah, it do make some that makes a world of difference how bring your child up, and also seeing you know there's some of these old talk shows on TV. You know, they even some whites. You got the over here the KKK, and they have their little babies dressed up in the same outfit, got their hood on. Just teaching. I mean, no, baby, children don't come here hating. Children don't come here being racist. So that's in they learned that from somewhere, from somebody. Somebody installed that in them. But just like you said, it goes to your upbringing, how you raise, how you bringing up your children, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. It starts there. It starts with the parents. And so like I said, ain't no child coming here being racist. That's something that has been taught from somebody, and you it's like some blacks growing up being a victim that has been taught for years. Yeah, I mean decades and decades that's been taught. There's some like I said before, there's some whites that maybe in the Klan I've seen they have dressed their children up as a Klansman. So that's it man, look at yeah, we all
Yeah,
different, but we all bleed the same red blood.
yeah. No,
So
I think the issues around white supremacy, you know, um, the reason why some white people feel that they're supreme to other people, to other races. It comes down to the issue of upbringing, as I was describing before. Someone who's been nurtured, you know, will have advantages of someone who's not been nurtured when they were being brought up, you know, and because you know, white culture, the way white people bring up their children in general. I'm not saying every white person is brought up, you know, that, you know, in a good way, but in terms of nurturing their children, um, they do it more than any other race does it, and so this creates a situation where some white people realize that they possess a kind of advantage of others because of that, how they've been brought up. And to me, that's where this issue of white supremacy comes from, you know. So some people want to attribute it to color of skin, you know. I don't think it's got anything to do with the color of their skin. I think it's got to do with how they've been brought up, and they're feeling that they have an advantage of others, and they want to take advantage of that in a negative way. In this case, with the KKK. But one of the ways we can address the root cause of those kind of issues of white supremacy, you know, and violence around that, is by having an open conversation about how different races are bringing up their children, because it is a fact. If you're brought up in an environment where you've not been nurtured, even if you've not been abused, but you've not been nurtured, someone who's grown up in an environment where they've been nurtured will have an advantage over you, as a human being, just because they are able to express what they came here with better, So some people will realize that and think, oh, I'm gonna go and take advantage of other people because I've got this advantage over them, and that's partly the reason for slavery. It's the reason for colonialism. It's the reason for a lot of other things. Just some white people suddenly feeling and realizing, which is true, that they have an advantage over others. But what has not been focused on enough is the reason for that. It's because the way they've been brought up, they do have an advantage over others, and they've gone and they've exploited that in a negative way, and taken advantage of other people and abused other people in the process. So that is wrong. But we need to have an open conversation about the root causes of these issues, which is upbringing.
Yes, indeed. We're speaking with Mr. Moses Tad. Sir, I want to thank you for coming on. You have any projects, anything coming up you want to share with the people, or any contact information, your Facebook or email address you want to share? Anybody that might want to get a hold to you?
Yes, at the moment, I've set up a Facebook page for the campaign, and that's the best way to contact me. The Facebook page is called Stop Anti-White Indoctrination. So that's the name of the page on Facebook. If you search for it, you'll find it. There's contact details on there. You can send me a message via Messenger, Facebook Messenger. You can send me a message via WhatsApp. Yeah, and we can keep in touch that way.
All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for tuning in, however you watching, and however you may be listening. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Special thanks to Moses Ty for taking the time to be a part of the program, and I'm grateful for the information that he shared. And till then, till next time, y'all be blessed.